Hey everybody, it's the Mad Master here, and today I'm going to do a reaction video. This reaction video is to this very weird thing that I found out had happened, and that's, if you know the band The Human League, they did the song "Don't You Want Me" from the '80s. Don't you want me, baby? You know that song. They used to open their shows in the early '80s with a Judas Priest cover of "Take on the World." So this is a video reaction. A reaction video to that cover, because there is some live recordings of that cover. There's no official studio recordings, but I'm going to listen to that and just give you my response to that, as long as it plays, of course. Sounds pretty rough, very tribal. I hear the key of A, which I believe "Take on the World" is in. It kind of started out a little bit more industrial too, I noticed, and that's kind of a known thing. Like their first album, I believe, had a little bit of that feel to it. So it's not too far removed from that, I don't think. Advertise this person's channel. That's the channel if you go to check it out. Take it to the top. Put yourself in our hands, so our voices can be heard. And together we will take on all the world. Put yourself in our hands, so our voices can be heard. And together we will take on all the world. Move a little nearer. You know you got to follow your leaders. 'Cause we need you like you need us for sure. Really interesting to hear it done by a synth pop band that was kind of uh, transitioning out of. Sorry, I just had to laugh, but I I really like this group. They kind of went really commercial, but they were kind of transitioning out of kind of industrial stuff into sort of pop, sort of new wave industrial to synth pop. So I find it really interesting that they kind of incorporate that kind of industrial, kind of a sparse, almost like Public Image Limited or something, or Cabaret Voltaire or something, or kind of this sparse thing going on, and to this Judas Priest song, which was kind of a Queen-esque song to begin with, just like United is on British Steel. I prefer Take on the World. I prefer Hellbent for Leather to British Steel a lot. So, or Killing Machine, whatever you want to call it. So. We're gonna drive you, we're gonna ride you, we're gonna get right inside you, and if you wanna keep going, just shout out, a little bit of a flat note there. Oh, that's a cool part. I like that. Getting some different kinds of synth sounds on that part, you know, a little bit of more high pitched. Very interesting stuff, you know. So, I mean, that's the, you know, as far as like what, as far as musicians, like musical tastes and stuff at that time, the tribalism reigned supreme amongst the masses. You know, you wouldn't listen to a Judas Priest song if you were a synth pop fan, and vice versa. Usually, now like I grew up always kind of pluralistic about music compared to a lot of people. Probably why I had such trouble as a teenager, because I didn't grasp the punk slash metal divide. You know, so Hesher, man, you're a weird Hesher, you know, but I was, but back then it was a lot worse than now, you know. You still have some of that now, but it's not, you know, it's nowhere near where it was. So it's really interesting seeing a synth pop band do a Judas Priest cover. And I know that they did this, let's see, November 24th. Oh, they had interesting lineup. I think that was the new lineup for Human League. So it's the early Human League stuff's actually really interesting stuff. Now that song was a little bit too, you know, knowing the original, it's a little too blah comparatively. I think they could have spiced it up a little bit. Like it's amazing that they did a cover of Judas Priest, but it's and not to mention it's the first song. Look at this, the first song of the show. So very interesting band, very interesting history, and a lot of people don't know about that. It's so weird. I guess I read somewhere that they were listening. They actually, like, it wasn't just a joke, ironic joke. Like they liked Judas Priest actively, like which is pretty wild. But if you read about the what's his name? Philip Oakey, I think was the guy, the original guy. Or if I'm trying to remember right, that like that early stuff, like the early stuff is actually kind of industrial. Like I said, it's a lot different than the synth pop in some ways. It kind of is, but it isn't. And they were a lot different actually. And they originally had, it was all dudes, and then they got, you see, there's Martin Ware and Ian Craig Marsh. And one of those guys formed an industrial group, and I'm trying to remember the name. But they got Susan Sully and Joanne Catherall, both on vocals. But it's an interesting band. I think it blew my mind to read that they did a Judas Priest cover. Like, what the hell? It's kind of like the Tori Amos Slayer cover from the 90s, but like, this is actually a lot weirder in a certain way, because it's like, back then you would never expect this kind of thing going on. Because synth pop kind of arose out of new wave and punk, so it's like, oh, those geezers and these dinosaur rock bands, or these newer geezers in the, heavy metal macho crap band, because they're kind of, a little bit more, I'm not gonna say effeminate, but a little bit more ambiguous, gender ambiguous, or I'm trying to think of more words for it, but androgynous, that's the word. Androgynous, a little bit more androgynous. They're into Roxy music and David Bowie probably, and then Kraftwerk and Throbbing Gristle and whatever, Velvet Underground. Everybody was into Velvet, but they weren't into like Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple and like bands, or Black Sabbath like Judas Priest were, or Scorpions. So you wouldn't expect them to do a cover of Judas Priest. So overall, I give it like a B minus. I think it's cool, but being live, it's a little bit like, well, it's kind of, it needs to be more lively in a certain way, and it needs to be a little bit more anthemic. It's a little bit too, it's almost somber, and it is kind of ironic sounding in a way. I don't think that was their intent necessarily. I think they just liked the song and wanted to do it, but it's strange. They should have had more like backing vocals, maybe just, I don't know if they did that later. They stopped doing that after a while. That song, I cannot believe that they opened the shows with that, though. That's crazy. Making a statement. I think it's good to be pluralistic and open-minded about music. I think if you're a synth pop fan, you can be a Judas Priest fan, and vice versa. The Human League, every time I hear that song on the radio, I turn it up. Even some of their other pop hits I like, maybe not that Only Human song. I'm not really into that, but the earlier stuff, and that album, those types of albums are really good. The early stuff. So, anyways, that's about all.